What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Cassidy and this is my planted paradise. So in today's video, I just wanted to talk to you guys about my... Sorry, Vixen is inside with me. The other two are outside because they are still staying separated unless I'm able to watch them. And yeah, so Vixen still pouts a little bit when she has to be by herself. Anyways, for today's video, I thought we could talk about my top tips for growing your Hoyas, how to make them grow faster and just be a lot more prolific. And yeah, so I thought we could just go through that today, and then I could also give you guys some updates on some of my Hoyas that I have and how they're growing and how they are doing. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to say is it's taken me a while to experiment with Hoyas in my environment and with what I'm able to do and what I'm able to provide for them to figure out exactly what that like happy sweet spot is. And it also is different for different varieties of Hoyas. So some might really like, oh my gosh, some might really like pond, or some might really like soil. Some might like leca, some might like more light or less light. So all this is still really variable, but I feel like I have a general idea of how to take care of most Hoyas. So for the first thing, I kind of already touched on it, would be finding the right medium that works for you and that works for your Hoyas. So most of my Hoyas are in either soil or they're in pond, and the pond is just my DIY pond mix. I do have a video about my DIY pond mix linked on my channel, so I will link that in my description if you are interested in checking that out. But like, this is my Hoya FUNGHI, for example, and she is completely set up and rooted in my DIY pond mixture. Now, there is a lot of algae. I do need to go ahead and give this a good little flush and rinse and clean out the jar. Hey, no ma'am, you're not gonna be sitting up here if you're doing that. But sorry, I really should probably take her out, but she just wants loving. Anyways, so if you remember, I got this maybe a month or 2 months ago, and I had 2 separate cuttings, but it was probably only a total of maybe 4 leaves maybe total. And now we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, I think. I could have double counted some of those, and that's just in 2 months. So yeah, this, hold on, let's put Jodo on the floor. Oh, okay. So this guy has been growing extremely fast and extremely well for me. Look how big this leaf got. It's just insane. So I would say this is largely due to the fact that I'm growing it in my DIY pond mixture. It really seems to love it and enjoy it. Jojo, you gotta go. Honestly, most of the Hoyas that I've tried in my DIY pond mixture have loved it, so I'm not that shocked. So yeah, that would be my first thing, is finding the right medium for it. So this is the new leaves. So this plant actually is actively growing from 3 different spots. So there's this vine that I just showed, and then there is this other vine coming out this side. It's got a new little baby leaf right there. And then it has actually just recently put out this new growth point right in the center. So it's gonna start growing from the base now as well. So that's really awesome. But yeah, I would say figuring out the right medium to grow your Hoyas in is going to be a really big part in just getting them to grow well and getting them to grow fast. So yeah, this is the Hoya FUNGHI, and she loves my DIY pond mixture. She has tendrils, so I have to like keep her on my lap or my cats are gonna get it. So the other thing is I do have some Hoyas that are in soil, and the soil mix that I use is extremely chunky and light and airy. So both with my soil mix for my Hoyas and my DIY pond, there's a lot of airflow that's able to get to the Hoya's roots, and I think that is really crucial because they do have fine root systems, so it's easy for them to be choked out a bit. So if it gets too compact or too heavy on those roots, I don't think they really like that. So for your soil mix, if you do choose soil, I would choose a nice chunky airy soil mixture. Now Vixen is getting water, and I'm sure you can hear her. So my next tip for growing out your Hoyas, it's going to be to leave them pretty root bound. So I don't know if I have any great examples or not. Let me see. Because some of them you just can't see. This is covered in algae. I've got to, that's not one of my Hoya growth tips, is to leave them covered in algae. But you can kind of see that this has roots just everywhere. Fully rooted. I'm not repotting that anytime soon. The FUNGHI was the same way. It was fully rooted. This is my big Hoya Mathilde, and if you can see in the bottom here, the roots are coming out the bottom, but she's not going to be repotted anytime soon. So I really feel like because Hoyas have such small, delicate root systems that they take a long time to fill up a container and a vessel. So no matter what you have them in, they really want to get fully established and they want to spread those roots out, and it takes them a lot longer to fill up that container, the pot, whatever you have it in. So I would just let them get root bound, because even when you think they're root bound, they're probably not. There's probably still a lot of more room for those roots. So I would let them just stay in the same container for as long as possible until you see them maybe just choking, the roots are getting absolutely choked out, or you need to replace a medium. I get that, to give it more nutrients. Just leave them. Don't repot them if you don't have to, because I really think they like to be root bound. My next tip is Hoyas love light. Obviously some Hoyas can't take super bright light. They might start getting a little bit bleached and they'll look discolored, but most Hoyas, I have noticed, if you let them acclimate into bright light, they love bright light. So like this, for example, is my Hoya SARAWAK. So these are the leaves that it came with, and as you can see, they are totally bleached and really pale in color. But if you look at the new growth, it's much darker, and even here at the top, it's starting to come in sun stressed. It's no longer yellow and bleached. So that was just a matter of this Hoya SARAWAK acclimating into my grow tent. It was obviously grown in a less highlight environment beforehand, but now I have it in highlight and it has just shot off this vine. Seriously, within the matter of maybe a week and a half, it just decided, okay, I'm ready. And it's completely rooted, again, in my DIY pond mixture. So yeah, Hoyas really like high light, and you have to give them some time. So if this SARAWAK started to get yellow and started to get pale in color, and it wasn't trying to grow actively, then I'd probably realize, okay, this is too much light for it. It doesn't like it for that Hoya species, and I would have moved it. But since I did have it in this high light, and then after it was acclimated, it did shoot off this vine, I know that it can take that highlight and actually pretty well enjoys it as well. So another example of why you should give your Hoyas highlight is because some Hoyas sun stress beautifully. I'm so sorry if Vixen crying is distracting. It's just my situation at the moment. But some Hoyas sun stress absolutely gorgeously when they are given enough bright light, and it is just gorgeous. So this is my Hoya SURIGAOENSIS. I probably pronounced that wrong, but if you can see anywhere it's been having that really high light exposure, it's got this gorgeous red in it, and then contrasted with the green and the veining, I just think It is so, so stunning, and look how big these leaves are getting. It's just insane. So yeah, this is another one of those Hoyas that really loves high light, and my DIY pond mix. Really love it. Just look how much that is growing and getting beautiful. I'm in love. The next thing I would say for your Hoyas is give them something to climb. I know not all of these are climbing here necessarily, but pretty much all of them could. I'm just kind of lazy. But yeah, give your Hoyas something to climb. If you can see, this is my Hoya CHOUKE, and it has just climbed and grown all the way up this trellis, and it's growing off of it. But yeah, Hoyas love to climb. If you have Hoyas, you probably notice they'll send out these tendrils or vines, and they'll start kind of weaving their way into things. Hoyas just love to be able to climb things and find something to attach onto. So that is one of the biggest things, and I also think they're just gorgeous when they're trellised. I think it makes a really cute plant. So trellis your Hoyas, they really love it. Here's another example of a trellised Hoya. This is one of my Hoya lacunosas, and she easily overtook this trellis, and now it's just kind of going all over the place. But she absolutely loves it. Not root bound yet, so she won't be getting a repot for probably a year or so, even though it looks like maybe she needs one. She doesn't, she's good. But yeah, that's my Hoya lacunosa, and it's just another great example of give your Hoya something to climb, because they will overtake it if you give them time. I love this plant. It's so freaking pretty. I love it so much. I really need to try to see if I can fasten any of these vines back to the trellis, but I don't know. It might be a lost cause. Might just need to let it do its thing. And then also this is my Hoya Chelsea. So this guy also has kind of just eaten this trellis alive. It really needs a bigger one, but it would need a really big trellis, and I don't feel like making one. But as you can see, this is grown in my IKEA cabinet, and it's actually gotten really close to the light. So now the leaves are getting pretty large, and they're developing a good amount of beautiful splashing. So if you can see here, this leaf down here, how small it is compared to my palm, and then look at this leaf that it's pushing out now, just because it has such high light and it has something it's able to climb. They just love it. Hoyas really just love it. So that is my Hoya Chelsea. She's climbing our trellis. She's in really great bright light, and she's just doing the most. Look at that leaf right there. That's what I want you to look at. So pretty. I love it. Another tip I would say I recommend for Hoyas is to water them more often. I've noticed it's a really popular trend for people to say that Hoyas are really succulent, which they are, but also people suggest not watering them until they're at the point where they're wrinkling and you can completely bend the leaves. In my personal opinion, if you wait that long, you're gonna run into more problems that way. I feel like if you're already waiting until the leaf can just bend in half, that you are at risk for then when you do decide to water that plant, giving it root rot. So I actually water my Hoyas probably at least once a week. It really depends on the container they're in and everything. But for example, my Hoyas that are in pond, once I notice there's no more water in the reservoir, like on this Hoya meredithii, this needs water, and I would give it water, especially when it's actively growing. Like right now, it has put out that new leaf, and it has a little new nubbin at the top. I just noticed, you probably can't see it. So yeah, this Hoya needs water in my opinion, even though this leaf is really firm. But I just have noticed that, especially if it's putting out new growth or if it is blooming or anything, You're gonna lose that new growth a lot easier, or those blooms on your peduncles, if you aren't keeping up with the watering. If you let it get too dry, if you let the leaves get to that point where you can fold them and bend them, I feel like it is a lot more likely for the plant to just drop that new growth and just say, forget it, I don't have enough moisture, I can't sustain this new growth. So that's another really big thing, and I think it's a pretty unpopular opinion, so absolutely don't do it if you aren't comfortable. But in my opinion, Hoyas need to be watered a lot more than people let on. So yeah, my last tip for growing out your Hoyas is to cut them, which seems like, well, if I want my Hoya to grow a whole lot and I want it to get nice and big, like why would I cut it? But Hoyas love to be cut, in my opinion. So this is my Hoya obscura. She's been growing really nicely and beautifully, but just 2 weeks ago, if you watched my sick houseplant chores video that I did, I actually cut this stem right here. So I took a cutting, it was a lot longer and I just didn't really like how it was looking. Honestly, this side might need a cut soon, but that was just 2 weeks ago. And in those 2 weeks, this obscura vine that I cut from has put out 2 new growth points. So this leaf right here is new, and so is that one down in there. I'll see if I can get you guys a better view. So, nope, not like that. I'm gonna have to stand up. Okay, so if you look in here, this leaf right here, that one is coming out of a growth point from that node. And then this new leaf is coming out of a growth point from that node. So those are brand new growth points that have come out just in the past 2 weeks since I took a cutting from this vine. It shot 2 new growth points out from that vine. So now, instead of just having it vine straight out this way, it's going to possibly vine that way if it activates up there, but now it's also gonna have 2 more that are gonna come out from that same vine. So it just really helps create a bigger, bushier plant. So that is a really great way to help it grow and get a lot bigger. And then another thing is, if you are just unhappy with how a Hoya is growing, don't be afraid to completely cut it up. You can cut it into like 2 node or single node cuttings, propagate them all, root them up, and make you an even bigger, fuller plant. So this plant I actually ended up having to cut up because it got burnt outside over the summer. So I just completely chopped it back as far back as I could, and I rooted all of the cuttings, and now I have this big full basket of Hoya PUBICALYX. So as you can see, there's so many different tendrils. I couldn't even count them if I wanted to. There's probably at least, I don't know. There's so many different growth points on this plant now. So it is only going to be a matter of time before this is just huge and trailing all over the place and actively growing from so many different areas like it already is. You can see this is like 3 tendrils right here that have just wrapped up into each other. The tendrils are just all over the place. So that would be my last biggest tip for growing out your Hoyas, would just be not being afraid to cut them, because seriously, Hoyas love to be cut and they're so easy to propagate because they can grow roots anywhere along the stem. It does not have to be from a node. I do think they tend to root a little bit faster from a node, but it's not hard by any means to just have the stem root. So if you want to do single node cuttings, you can, and it can just root from the stem. So Hoyas are great to propagate and to grow, and to make them bushier and bigger and fuller is just to cut them. It will encourage more growth in the long run. I promise, I can't stress that enough. Cut your Hoyas. So I think that's it for my Hoya growth and care tips. So my tips were to leave them pot bound or root bound as much as possible until you see it like deteriorating, or if the roots are suffocating, up pot them. But if they aren't, let those roots just completely take over that container. 2 is to give them bright light. Most Hoyas really love bright light. Obviously there's going to be some exceptions. There's different species like different things. But for a general rule of thumb, Hoyas really love bright light, and I find that they grow super fast and super beautifully if they are given enough really bright light. The 3rd thing is to let your Hoyas climb. If you can, if you like that look, let them climb, because you can see how this Hoya PUBICALYX has all these random tendrils everywhere that aren't really putting out leaves. If they're able to climb something, usually then they're more likely to put out leaves and grow faster. So if you can see, this tendril right here has wrapped itself around the trellis, and look, it put out these 2 new leaves. They're actually still soft, so they're fairly new. But yeah, let your Hoyas climb if you can. Another thing was finding the right medium that works for you and that works for that specific Hoya. For me personally, that's either soil or my DIY pond mixture. Again, I will link that video down below for you guys. Let's see, what else were my tips? Cut them back. We just talked about that. And lastly was the watering, which is probably the most controversial tip I can give, but seriously, I water my Hoyas at least once a week. Some of the smaller ones that are in the smaller containers of pond, I'm watering those at least twice a week. Anytime I notice there's no more water and they're actively growing, I'm giving them water. So yes, those are all of my biggest, most important tips for your Hoyas to help them grow and make really great, beautiful Hoyas. So now I think I'll just show you guys some more little growth updates, and then we'll just call it a day on this video. Okay, I have grabbed a few more Hoyas I want to show you guys. So here is my Hoya Dakie, and she had actually stopped growing for a while, and I wasn't sure why, and I think she actually was getting too much light. This was on one of my top shelves, and I decided I was going to bring her down to a lower shelf. It's still super bright light, but not as bright as it was. And yeah, so I had gotten this really nice, beautiful big leaf, and then it just kind of stopped for a little bit. But now, if you can see in the middle there, she's got another little vine coming out with those 2 new leaves right there. So that's coming out of this leaf that had just grown. I don't really see any other active growth points. I see a couple places where it looked like she thought about it, and I was like, never mind. But yeah, I am really excited for those new leaves right there to come out, because it's been a while since I got a new leaf, so that's really exciting. Next is my Hoya macrophylla or latifolia snow queen. Now she's not very snowy. I am upset, but I'm also not upset. I'm happy she's growing. Like, this would be a typical snow queen leaf to have quite a lot of splashing on it, but she's put out this whole vine right here. These are all new leaves here, all that, and they're not super snow-like, but they're still really pretty. That's the newest leaf right here. I think it's still super gorgeous. And then it's actually also trying to put out a vine right there. If you see it, it's like tucked behind these leaves, putting out another one right there. This guy's another one it's extremely root bound in this DIY pond. Like, the roots are coming out the top, you can see in there. So this guy, I wouldn't say I would repot it, but I would give it a re-up on its medium, because I know it's probably used up most of the nutrients that was in here. So it needs a re-up, but I also do fertilize. So yeah, but it needs to at least be cleaned. Please look at that algae. That's bad, but yeah, she's completely rooted, and she threw out this vine. So she obviously doesn't care about that algae too much, since this vine is looking pretty beautiful still. And then another one I wanted to show you guys. This is either my Hoya parasitica heart shape or verticillata, or I don't know. Hoya names are so confusing and I feel like they change all the time. So this guy is starting to fill out really nicely. You can see she's kind of overtaken this trellis quite a bit. She's got these beautiful splashy leaves. If it will focus, come on, focus, kind of. So this is a newer leaf, that's a newer leaf. Let's see. Oh, this one is the newest leaf she's still working on right there. And then she's got a little baby guy here in the middle, and then there's more little baby ones up on these tendrils that she's pushing off. So yeah, she's quickly outgrowing this cute little circle trellis, but I don't know. I'm not in any hurry to make bigger trellises, especially because she also doesn't really need a repot at all, so bigger trellis isn't gonna fit in here very easily, so she's just gonna have to hold on and keep filling up that circle or just keep reaching. This is a really long tendril. I didn't realize how long it was. Okay, I just have two more Hoyas, I was gonna say trellises, that I want to show you guys. So this is my Hoya Chiang Mai, I think is how you say it. I'll put the name on the screen. And this guy has just boomed. It probably doesn't look like it because it's super compact in here, but she's going crazy right now. So if you can see, here is a new vine she's working on. And then let me just turn you around here. So if you can see, there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 new vines with new leaves coming in, coming out of the center, just all from like the middle of this plant, which is pretty crazy because usually they'll grow out just a vine. They tend to do this like it was doing, but I guess it decided it wanted to be more than just one vine, and I am perfectly happy with that. So it actually looks like within this one vine, it's starting another one right there. If you can see, that just shot off from that node. This looks like I might have either new growth or a peduncle. I can't really tell. I think that's new growth. Oh yeah, that's a new growth point. So it is also trying to put out new growth on that node right there. So that will be another vine from this vine. And the one below that, I don't know. This guy is just going absolutely crazy. So this is in my DIY pond mixture, and look at the roots. She's absolutely and completely rooted so well, and she's not going to be repotted. I know that algae is a really big problem with a lot of my Hoyas that are in pond right now, but it's just a problem they're all gonna have to deal with, and they all seem happy enough and growing enough that it doesn't bother me that much. But yeah, just look at all of these roots. It's pretty insane. Just completely rooted all the way around. Is there any in the bottom? Maybe a little bit right there. But yeah, that's my Hoya Chiang Mai, I think it is. And then lastly, I just wanted to show you guys my Hoya elliptica, which I think was either 2 stems or like 2 vines or maybe 3. I'm not entirely sure, but she's going pretty nuts and she's just stunning. There's not a good word. Like, actually, I think she's gotten a little dry. That leaf, yep, does not look healthy. So she's in soil, living her best life. The other leaves feel great, but I don't know, that leaf didn't make it. But that's okay, because just look at her. And we can try to find some new vines in here. So it looks like back here in the back, you see there is one coming in right there. Then there's another growth point right there. I know it's not super easy to see, but right there where my finger is. Let's see where else. This is a new growth up here at the top of this. Look at that itty bitty baby leaf. Hold on, it doesn't want to focus today. But right there, there's that teeny tiny baby leaf. Where else? Where else? Oh, well, this is all new down here at the base. I don't even know where that is coming from, but these leaves down here, that's all new fresh growth. And there's little baby ones in the middle. She's just growing and growing, and I love it. And she's so pretty. Just look at all those freaking veins. Like, this was a wish list Hoya for a reason. And that's the reason. And then look, when you give it high light, the tops don't necessarily sun stress, but the backs get this like purpley burgundy color to them, which I think is really cool. And that's from the really bright light. So this also really does not mind bright light. It doesn't look like sick. It just looks kind of sun stressed and beautiful, and it's growing crazy fast. And yeah. I'm gonna try to stop talking now because honestly, I could talk about my Hoyas all day long. I love them, I want more of them, but that takes money and it takes up space. And I am running out of both of those. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos by me, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. If you want more content by me that is not necessarily plant related, just about me and my life and all my crazy children, then you can go subscribe to my other YouTube channel. Check that out. You can also follow my plant Instagram at Oso Planted Paradise, or my personal Instagram, Oso Sassy Cassie. Everything will be linked in the description below. And yeah, if you guys have any video suggestions or ideas or things you want to see, also comment that below. And I think that is everything that I want to say. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you're having a wonderful day or week or month or just everything in general. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.